Hello, Sir David the Bard. This is my second attempt at this particular video. YouTube will come up and say, something's gone wrong. I've heard that my whole life. When I was in the birthing room and I came out, the doctor yelled, something's gone wrong. And that's been the name of the 50th token of the general priesthood. Does it have a name? It does. It's Sir David the Bard. I promise I will never reveal the 50th token of the Bard, or I will have my throat sliced. Anyway, I have a very nice, I'm coming to you from the Kangaroo City. I'm back down here. I just flew in. And the kangaroos are really cute. They go like this. You know that little front leg they have? They go like that. I go by, it's like the Bard. It's like the Pope going by on a motorcycle. But anyway, I have a very nice question. I think a legitimate question from somebody. Let me see if I can, oh God, I don't think I can bring her up again. She's gone. Okay, I can do it from memory. I think her name was Phoebe. She asked me, what are the 3 things that caused me to have my eyes opened after 50 years of being in the Mormon church? It's hard to nail it down to 3. I'm going to tell you right now, if there's one thing that makes you quit the Mormon church, you're probably an idiot. You're probably an idiot. People hurting your feelings, or, you know, the bishop saying you got, you know, shit for brains. That ain't nothing to quit a church over. Come on. If many things begin to stack up on the bottom of a pyramid, and the pyramid gets higher and higher and higher, then you have some legitimacy going, what the fuck? This isn't working for me. So to narrow it down to 3 things, I'm going to try to do, because that's your question. But I'm telling you right now that if you find 1 or 2 things wrong with the Mormon church, when there's 10 million, you're a stumble bum. You need 9 million to get the hell out of there, okay? And they're easy. Just look at the internet. Look at the Mormon church essays. Okay, I have a couple of experiences. One, I was in Colorado at a ward house attending sacrament meeting. Of course, I'm out in the foyer. It should be called the Bard foyer, because I never went in and sat on the bench unless I had to throw Cheerios at my kids. And I was sitting in a chair there, and they had some very pretty pictures up on the wall, like they do in most chapels. And I saw the picture of Christ riding on a donkey. And they had palm leaves and palm things they threw on the ground so that he didn't have to have dust or honor in him. I don't know. And he's riding into, I guess, General Conference there in Jerusalem. I don't know. But anyway, he was important, and he was on a little white donkey. Now, I can't say this, but in my mind, maybe a vision, an opening of my mind. I had just received information that Hinckley was the president of the church in those days, that he rode around Salt Lake City, because I didn't live there then, nor do I now. I'm down in Australia. Anyway, he rode around in a great big Cadillac, an extended penis Cadillac, big old black one. Anyway, in my mind, the beginning was that picture. And I said to myself, what the hell is wrong that, now I'm going back when I believed, you know, I'm an atheist now, but when I believed in Jesus, I said, you know, here's the king of the universe. He's the master. He's the God. And he's riding a damn donkey. And Hinckley, who's never had a job, he worked for the railroad, I think, when he was 18, for 3 days or a month, I don't know. The rest of the time, he lived off the members of the church. And he's riding around in a great big black Cadillac. And I thought, you know, that doesn't sit with me well. The weight is now against the church and the way the authorities embellish themselves with cars, houses, you know, insurance policies, perks, income payment checks, and tax-free dodging of the United States government. So that was number one. That was the beginning of my mind going, Okay, number two, I would have to say, is a conglomerate of my divorces. Now, you know, Mercy's my sixth wife, and I've been married in the temple 3 times. I married Janice, Jeannie, and Janet. Manti Temple, Salt Lake Temple, and Washington, D.C. Temple. So I was pretty familiar with the temple rites of the Mormon Church. The secret names and, you know, the hokey pokey and take your partner by the right hand. I swear, you know, the true order of prayer is nothing more than a fancy sacrament, Jim. Everybody repeat. We thank thee, O God, for our prophet. We thank thee, O God, for... I mean, no intelligence, nothing. But anyway, when I got divorced, I had a friend, John Hunter. Now, he was Howard W. Hunter's son. And he was in our ward there in Ojai, John. I like John. John was a funny dude. He was the hanging judge. He was a municipal judge in Ventura County, and he'd throw the book away at you. And he and, what's his wife's name? Not Lorraine. I can't think. But they had like 9 or 10 kids, and they lived way up on the hill. They were rich. And sometimes his father, Howard W. Hunter, when he was the prophet of the church, would come to Ojai, and we'd all go, "Hi, we thank thee, O God, for a prophet." And John was embarrassed. Anyway, I got divorced, and I thought John was a pretty good authority in the church. He had a father who was the prophet, and John was well-read, well-respected in the state. And I said to John, I said, you know, I don't understand. When I get a temple divorce, where the hell do my kids go? They're sealed to me and the wife. I don't know. Well, I don't know either. What do you think? Well, when Jesus comes to Jackson County, Missouri, and does the hokey pokey around the temple, he'll probably tell you. I said, John, that isn't a good answer. That ain't a good answer. Are the kids sealed to me, or sealed to her, or the most righteous one when we die? Or do the kids actually grow up in their own families with their own husband and be their own husband? I don't know. Well, I couldn't get an answer to that question. It'll be figured out in the millennium. And I said to myself, gee, you know, if you can marry people down here for time and eternity, why do I have to wait 10,000 years or 1,000,000 years, or if it ever happens, to find out, are my kids with me, or are they with Moroni, Momoki? I don't know where my kids are. Well, no one else did either. Then I went, That added to Jesus on a donkey. Well, there's several things. Millions of things in between. Like I said, God, if you've got one bitch about the Mormon church, you better stay in there. If you've only got one bitch, stay in there. Well, there's 2 more things. One is when I divorced Jeannie, she stole everything. The house, the car, my tools, my furniture, everything. And I looked down and my penis was still there, but it was double circumcised. But anyway, I found a box. She threw a box on my mother's doorstep, and that's all I got. And all that was in the box was like my birth certificate and some legal papers. Well, at the bottom of the box, there's a whole bunch of pussy pictures of Jeannie. Now, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know they were in the box, if you know what I mean. And so, you know, she's the little return missionary and the cheerleader, and oh, I'm so happy and I'm so righteous. I wrote to her and I said, hey, you want these naked pictures? And she says, you don't have any naked pictures. I said, okay, bitch. So I went down to, this is on another video, and this is why I lose my women audience. But it's the Bard. I went down to FedEx there, and I made a poster, 3x3 of her vagina, and her wedding ring was in the picture, so you knew whose vagina it was. I sent it to her new husband. Only something a Bard would do, okay? Well, he was stupid. He took it to the stake president. Now they're all sitting around that great big conference table, and they're going, "Holy crap! Look at that pussy!" And the bishop said, "Well, don't get it in your mind. This is just evidence." Anyway, they passed their pussy picture around, and it was funny shit. It was funny shit. So there's a piece there. Now, one of the final pieces was my rebaptism. I resigned once, then I resigned a second time. The control and the guilt and the demeanor of the Mormon Church coming in for the second time, you know, they were never going to trust me ever again, no matter what I said or did. Well, anyway, I was at the Los Angeles temple one day. I used to work on Thursdays, I think. And I was pretty young compared to the old bastards that were in there with me. And I was sitting around, and, you know, we all chatter a little bit between sessions. We sit in certain chairs, and when they don't have enough people to go to the temple, they tell us to get dressed in our temple uniform and run in the back door behind the altar and pretend we're part of the group because there's not enough people for a prayer circle. To have a circle, you got to have more than two. Two ain't a circle. So anyway, I sat around, I looked at these old boys, and some of them were farmers, and some of them were businessmen, real estate agents, professional people. And again, my mind just opened, and it said, these are the people that are going to be in the celestial kingdom. Do you want to be there with them? I had a definite no. I really don't. I'd rather go somewhere else. Let them go to the celestial kingdom and have collab and worlds of their own, which now the church says they're not going to have worlds of their own, but in those days. And I said, no. These are not the high quality, honest, good people I want to be with. So I'll choose another kingdom. So there's the summary. Phoebe, I don't know, honey, whatever your name is. I'm sure you're cute, but I would like you to send in those photographs so I know if it's a girl or a boy. Gender is very important. There are hundreds and hundreds of other things that I could bring up. But this is what I'm telling you about Mormonism from my perspective. You may be different. You may be different. But it was pieces of a huge jigsaw puzzle. And finally, when I could see the general picture of what the jigsaw puzzle was, I saw that it was a fake. It was phony. I have good degrees. I was educated at Brigham Young University. I've read the comprehensive history of the church by B.H. Roberts. I don't think you can even get it anymore. Skousen, McConkie, comprehensive history, Joseph Smith. I've been to every place Joseph Smith has been, except in Helen Mar Kimball. I've been to his birthplace. I've been to Kirtland. I've been to Liberty Jail. I had to visit most of the jails across the east to get where Joseph Smith was. I've been in Nauvoo. I've been in the Carthage jail where they shot him out, and he shot one or two people there. And I've been at his tomb site and his gravestone. Him and Hiram were buried together. I've been in the mansion house where he lived, and I've been to the Sacred Grove, and so I've been to all of those places. And so I have a big background in the Mormon Church. I've been there a long time. I've got 14 kids. God damn, if you can do 14 kids, you're a Mormon. I don't think a Catholic can even handle 14 kids. Anyway, over those years, many things happened to me that didn't offend me, but made me go, my wife Jeannie, her father was not a member of the church, and he was hateful to the Mormons because they were hateful to him. They gave his wife a free attorney to sue his ass in the divorce, but he won. He beat that Mormon attorney. And I like Bill Wynn. I think he was a good man, and I didn't want him to suffer again because of Mormonism. So Jeannie and I, his daughter, were worthy to go to the temple. We had temple recommends, but I decided not to go to the temple. I wanted him to give his daughter away, and I wanted him to have, in his last days, some joy. that his daughter's getting married, and he can be there to witness it, the most important event, I think, in a father's life. So we got married in the State Center, and then the bishop came to me and he said, "You're going to have to wait a year to go to the temple to get sealed." I said, "So what? So what?" So I waited a year, and I went in to see the bishop, same asshole that was there. He didn't like the bard. Well, and I didn't like him much either. And he said, "Why are you here today?" And I said, "Well, it's been a year, and I'm here to get my temple recommend." He stood up. The bard don't lie. God, I wish I could think of his name. Stood up behind his big fat desk, and he said, "If you were the last man on earth, I would not give you a temple recommend." And he sat down and he was quiet. I said, "Well, maybe you better turn around and use that damn telephone and call the stake president and see what he says." So he turns around and he's on the phone. Slams the phone down. Takes out the recommend book, slams it down on the desk, signs it, never said a word to me. Out. That could hurt a lot of people's feelings. I go, fuck him. I don't care. I don't care. They called me to teach seminary, and in that ward, in that stake. That was a Newberry Park stake in California. And I was teaching. I taught like a week or two. And pretty soon, the same bishop has now become stake president of the Newberry Park ward. And he walks in and he says, "You're gone." Just fired me right on the spot in front of the kids. And out the door I go. He didn't like me. And he treated me like that. I have many, many experiences over 50 years in the Mormon church that are like that. If I wanted to leave because someone hurt my feelings, God, I would have left a long time ago. But I believed it. I was willing to be abused like that because I thought I was going to heaven. And I've just had many. I had an elders quorum president, Penberthy. What's his first name? I can't think. Anyway, he was the elders quorum president, and he said, "Can I see you after church?" And I said, "Yeah." And we walked around the outside of the building of the chapel there, and he said, "Well, I went to the temple to ask God who I should call into my quorum presidency, and he told me you." Well, I just kept walking. I didn't know God knew me. But anyway, I just kept walking. He looks at me and he says, "You know, I think they like this over there, if you were the last man on earth." He said, "I would have never chosen you, and I don't want to choose you, but I'm going to choose you because the Lord has commanded me." Did he have a flaming sword? Anyway, that's how I was called to be into the elders quorum presidency. Well, Penberthy pulled a couple of stunts. Everyone in Utah, or everyone in California, runs to Utah when they're in trouble. So Penberthy got in trouble, and off he went. So now there's a new elders quorum presidency, and I'm still in the quorum. Well, I owned a house across the way there, and I decided to sell my house. Well, when the realtor pulled up the title, it had a $40,000 lien on it. God dang, I didn't know that when I bought the house. I don't want to pay $40,000 lien. So I looked up who the lien was. It's my new elders quorum president. My new. The other one went with his legs between his tail. Or maybe he had his tail between. I think he had both. Anyway, I can't remember this guy's name either, but he had a big, beautiful custom home, and he was a building contractor. Well, when I started looking him up, evidently he had like 18 lawsuits against him for stealing building materials off of other building sites and building his own home. Jesus. Then I looked down his rap sheet there, TRW we called it back in those days, you call it FICA now, and he'd been bankrupt. he absolved all of those debts, but he didn't resolve the $40,000 lien on my house. So I took his rap sheet. It was like 8 feet tall. I said to the stake president, we need to have a talk. Stake president didn't like me either. The team of Mormonism has never liked me because I think and I question and I go, what? Anyway, I go into his office one night and I say, hey, you know, the Elders Quorum president has a $40,000 lien on my property and it's up for sale. He needs to clear that lien. The president looks at me with a big smile and he goes, that isn't a church problem, that's your problem. I go, it is. How can he be the Elders Quorum president when he's crooked as a dog's hind leg? That's not your problem. I said, well, you know what? I think it's going to become your problem. You don't know the Bard. You don't know the Bard. So anyway, I showed him. He was bankrupt. I showed him how many lawsuits and how much trouble the guy was in. And yeah, it doesn't matter. See, it's a good old boy system, and it's under the carpet, just like all the child molestation. So I go home, and it didn't take me long because I think shit up pretty quickly as a bipolar person. I had a beautiful, brand new Z28 Camaro, and that's gold and white. And I wrote on the side, on the hood, and on the trunk, the stake president loves dishonesty. I took it up to his little gated community, parked that son of a bitch right in front of his house, locked it and took the keys and went home. Well, I'm at home laughing my ass off. How long is it going to be before the phone rings or the doorbell rings? So it wasn't 20 minutes. See, they can get shit done real quick when you threaten to sue them. Mormons don't do anything until you threaten to sue them. And they, oh, okay, they do the hokey pokey. Anyway, this guy I liked really well. He was the head of the high priest one from Hawaii. A beautiful man. And he knocks on the door, and I open the door, and he says, Brother Crossett, and I said, yes, sir. He says, we need to talk about a car wash. I said, come on in. So he and I are just laughing our ass off. He thought it was funny, but he wouldn't tell the stake president that. So anyway, he said, listen, if we trace this guy down, he's run to Utah, we can't find him anywhere. He's left the Elders Quorum and skedaddled because of you. And the stake president didn't want to get involved in this, but he seems to be involved. I said, yes, he is. He put the church's rubber stamp on this guy, and now he has to back up his decision from Jesus that he should have called this guy to be my new Elders Quorum president. So anyway, he said, well, I'll tell you what. If we get that lien off of there for you, would you mind washing your car? Not at all. I'll be happy to go up and get it, and I'm going to even show you good faith. I'll go get it today, and you get that damn lien off there in the next week or two. He said, that's very fair of you. So he left, and we're just laughing our ass off. Well, sure enough, they had to go to Utah. They went through all the wards and looking through the, you know, Mormons can find almost anybody, anything. You can't, it's like video cameras. You can't hide from a video camera, and you can't hide from the Mormon church. You just can't. They have too many FBI agents and CIA agents that are retired that work for the Mormon church with all of their surveillance and their techniques of being able to pick up a phone and get private information on you. That's why I say, live a good life. Live a good life, or you're going to get screwed. Because the Mormon church will find you, and they will screw you. So anyway, long story long, they did get the $40,000 lien off of my house. They found him, threatened to excommunicate him, and he paid up. So that was good for me. I sold the house. I just had, I remember in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, I was living in Oklahoma, and it was a small ward, very small ward. And we were poor in Oklahoma, just like the rest of the state. And my boys didn't have white shirts to go to priesthood, and they had pink or, you know, blue. So we went to priesthood meeting, and the assistant, first counselor, I guess, came up to me, and he says, how come your boys aren't in proper uniform? I said, what uniform? They're not scouts. We're not a scouting family. He says, I mean the white shirts. I said, hell, they're not in white shirts because I can't afford to buy them. Oh. And he walks off. Now, that could offend some people. Didn't offend me. I sent the kids in muumuus the next Sunday, from Hawaii. So anyway, I've had, over the years, many state presidents and bishops who are absolute assholes. Now, I do have to tell you this. The bar is fair. The bar is fair. When they do something right, I'm going to compliment them. It's the only way to live. I'm not going to be one-sided. So finally, in California, when I got that temple recommend from the state president to get married in the Salt Lake Temple, I rode a motorcycle with my wife. I couldn't afford a car up there, so I borrowed a motorcycle. Two of us are riding to Salt Lake City to get married for time and eternity. So we got there 2 days early. I thought it was going to take longer. And we went to the temple, and they said, well, we can't let you in because this recommend is not good until 2 more days. We didn't have hotel money. We didn't have food money. What are you going to live in the visitor center? I don't know. So I went over to the church office building, told them what my problem was, and they sent me upstairs to Hinckley, Gordon B. Now, I don't think he was the prophet of the church back in those days. He was up there in the first presidency or whatever. And I sat down with him, and friendly, very kind, very friendly. You don't work, you can be friendly to anybody. So anyway, I told him what my problem was. And he said, well, I don't think that's right. He says, take this over to the temple, go in and have your marriage. It's cool. He was cool to me, and I have to say that. He was reasonable. He was a man of wisdom. He didn't like the bard, but he was fair. He said, hey, coming 2 days early shouldn't be your problem. Go ahead and go over and get married in the temple. So we did. We did. So there's been many, I'm going to summarize here because this kind of got long, many events that have led me out of the Mormon Church. The doctrine, the philosophy, the policies, the procedures. Oh my God, I'm a graduate of BYU and I could bore you stiff with stories of BYU and some of the things that happened to me there. It's not one event. If you've got 8, 9, 10, 15, 100 events, then you really have to go, So don't let other people influence you. Let the event, the entire Mormon event, influence you. If you're happy, God, stay there and pay your tithing and enjoy yourself. If you're not, it takes a lot of courage, it's a lot of fear and guilt to leave the cult. And it'll take you anywhere around 5 years and up to adjust. Once you've been indoctrinated in a cult, and especially if you're a returned missionary, it's going to take you at least 5 years to know how to make friends, how to behave properly in the real society and not in the cult. So my advice is to this young person is don't let one event drive you out of anything. It could be an aberration. But when I read Joseph Smith Wise, head in a hat, looking at a stone, being convicted, shot out the window of a jail because he burned a press, a free freedom of the press newspaper down. When Helen Mar Kimball, I told you in my other thing, the latest joke is going around all over Kangaroo City and Utah. What divides into 14 twice? Joseph Smith. So anyway, hope I've answered your question. Hope you have health and enable, merit and bonus, strength and loins and send you power and priesthood. Be upon me and upon my posterity through all generations of time and throughout all eternity. This is the Paley, Laley, and ail me. Don't slit my throat. Don't cut my stomach. Visit the barge store. My hat's hanging on the wall there like an old western moose, that you shot. I got it hanging right there on the wall. So when people, what's that? And that's the old bard hat. How long you been doing this? Oh, my grandfather did it. I looked a lot like my grandfather. Anyway, this bard's gone.